Hey guys, what's going on? I'm here with another classic book haul, this time featuring the ugliest Christmas tie that the thrift store had to offer. Santa Claus on a hot air balloon doesn't make a lot of sense to me. He's got to go up and down this ladder with every house, but what do I know? More importantly, this video is featuring a lot of beautiful classic books that I found at thrift stores and library book sales. Let's start off with The Call of the Wild by Jack London, an absolute classic. I just read this a few winters ago, and a lot of people think of it as a kid's book, but even as an adult reading it for the first time, it packs a punch. You're gonna see a lot of gold edges in this video, you're gonna see a lot of danglies in this video, and you are going to see a lot of beautiful illustrations, albeit a little tragic in this case. But The Call of the Wild is also a very brutal book, which is why I was surprised that it is aimed at kids. But I think it's just the right amount of real for a kid to read. Next up we got 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea by Jules Verne, still in the shrink wrap. It's one of those Barnes & Noble classics, but I think an older one that's out of print, so may be somewhat valuable. I remember listening to this when I was painting one of my friend's houses, probably like 5 years ago at this point, and it's crazy how well an audiobook sticks with you and how easily it can bring you back to where you were when you were listening to it. It's not the most exciting book out there, but you gotta give it a pretty huge antiquity bonus for being so foundational and being written in like, what, late 1800s, I think? F. Scott Fitzgerald, Tales of the Jazz Age. Of course, I thought this was The Great Gatsby when I picked it up. At least I thought that it included The Great Gatsby and a bunch of other stories, but it does not. It does, however, have The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, which I did not know was an F. Scott Fitzgerald story, as well as all of these lesser known F. Scott Fitzgerald works. But mostly it's just got a very eye-catching format to it. Who's gonna go to a bookstore and not be instantly drawn to that one? All right, we got The Iliad by Homer in this Every Man's Library edition. Very collectible. It is definitely calling to me right now. This one's got a nice vintage vibe. It's strange, I thought it just had a plastic protector on it, but this plastic piece is part of the book, because without it, this is just like a paper insert, the cover of this book. So the plastic holds it all together, which admittedly seems a bit cheap, but this is a beautiful old book. Unread, that's for sure. But this is the more modern edition of the Everyman's Library. We got Walden by Henry David Thoreau, a book I will try and read again, perhaps in the spring. It would probably be a depressing read right now in the winter, talking about the beauty of the outdoors and all that. But yeah, just another beautiful book, another dangly. This one's pretty awesome, Winnie the Pooh. I'm not sure if there was a dust jacket for this guy and it got lost somewhere along the way, but it's just a really cute, tiny hardcover. I love how little is on the front of this book, but it still calls to me. I still feel drawn to this. Just the texture of the woven cover, this map inside. I might have to keep this one. Talk about a beautiful book. Talk about a beautiful book. Anne of Green Gables. Probably an old Barnes & Noble classic. I don't think it says it on the spine there, though. We got silver pages this time, not gold pages. And yes, 2012 Barnes & Noble classic. I think these are pretty collectible, so if you find ones that are out of print, then they might go for higher than what they are new at the store, which is what, like $20 to $30 or something. Very similar, A Little Princess, which is maybe the only book in this haul that I haven't heard of. I know nothing of The Little Princess. I'm just assuming it's a classic because it's in this format. What I'm assuming is a Barnes & Noble classic, and it's just an absolutely gorgeous book. It's got a dangly. Gold pages. Barnes & Noble 2015 classic. So a little later than that other one. But very similar. I might actually lot these up, because those two and Call of the Wild would be a perfect trio of books. Alright, here is a vintage one, A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. It is the Dickens time of year. I'd like to start some kind of tradition where I read a classic Christmas story this time of year, every year. But now I'm trying to get out of a reading slump, and I feel like that wouldn't help me very much. Le Guin is doing it for me. The book I'm reading right now City of Illusions is bringing me out of the reading slump, and I am very grateful for it. These books can be hit or miss value-wise. A lot of times it looks vintage and classic, but it was just super mass-produced. This was just a nice tome, and a book I want to read, although the binding is a little messed up. This one, what do you guys think? What's your best guess? It's an absolute classic. You might have had to read it in high school and hated it. Nautical. Ishmael. It's Moby Dick by Herman Melville. A book I haven't read. I was never forced to read this. And I'll be honest, I haven't really heard a case for reading it now. For better or worse, I'm not sure. The International Collectors Library presents Moby Dick. It's got a little insert there. That's kind of cool. That's how you know it was on red, which this definitely appears to be. Deckled edge of sorts, but maybe that was just a manufacturing limitation back then. And of course a dangly. Of course a dangly. The Lost World by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Don't hate me, but I thought this book was about dinosaurs when I first picked it up. But Sir Arthur Conan Doyle was the Sherlock Holmes guy. But was he more than the Sherlock Holmes guy? Because The Lost World doesn't seem like a Sherlock Holmes story. Alright, well, it's not dinosaurs and it's not Sherlock Holmes. Gotta do some research on that one. Beautiful book, though. Oh, it's got a dangler. Ah, again! Jack London, this time 3 of his books in another one of these vintage tomes. I don't know if you can tell, but this one looks like it got pushed in by something. There's like an indentation that's going to be hard to photograph, unfortunately, and in the back as well. Yeah, you can see it right there. It's like they had a stack of books sitting on this guy for a while. But I rescued him. Beautiful old wallpaper feel right there. Faded gold pages. Oh, slightly faded. It shines in the light right there. And a lot of words per page. Look at that. Not the edition I would choose to read, but definitely an edition that I would love to see on a shelf somewhere. Gone with the Wind by Margaret Mitchell. Big boy. With a slipcase, which is pretty cool. Now that's a tome. That's a tome. Not sure if this is some special edition. It is indeed an anniversary edition. Which anniversary? I do not know. Printed in 1975. I guess it wants me to do the math myself, but I will not. Just a beautiful book. Beautiful book with a beautiful slipcase. I don't have all that much interest in reading Gone with the Wind, so that will definitely be up on the eBay page. As will this book, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. An absolutely enchanting book. Try and find some synonyms for beautiful. Unfortunately, it does have one flaw here. The back cover is a bit torn, and a beautiful gift for someone with a new child. It's got these old bookmarks in here. Books are the answer. Agreed, although a little bit vague. Okay, put that in there. Nice. A beautiful gift book, but I do understand the reluctance of giving a used book. Depends on how used it is, but when you give someone a book with a tear in the back here, the person is probably wondering, oh, well, did I get a damaged new book? It was new originally, so I understand that. Oh, good. I almost forgot. I wanted to do a giveaway for the holiday season. I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to facilitate that, but if you look in the description, hopefully I have a link to some kind of form that you can fill out. I want to give away this book, The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse. I've reviewed it on this channel. It's a beautiful story that anybody with a beating heart can appreciate. So if you want a chance to win this book free of charge if you're in the US, hopefully there's something in the description for you. And also, I'm going to include this book, Japanese Book of Little Contentments. It's another beautiful book, and it's brand new, definitely giftable. I don't think they'd be able to tell that this was picked up at a used bookstore. Charming little hardcover. You know I love little hardcovers, especially with some tactile comforts like that. One of the many little comforts in this book, I imagine. If you want your chance to win these 2 books, giving them away, spirit of giving, look in the description. Cool. All right, here's a weird one. Mariana by Monica Dickens. Charles Dickens related? I don't know. I'm only told this one's a classic because it tells me it is a Persephone classic, one I haven't heard of before. So I guess there are a couple books in this haul that I'm not familiar with. The artwork is mainly why I picked this one out. It's creepy. It's kind of like early AI generated or paint by number or something. I'm not sure. It skews me out a little bit. Silent Spring by Rachel Carson. I was wondering how I had heard of this book because I saw it in the store and I'm like, oh, that's foundational and it's in pretty good condition, so it'll probably sell. And then I remembered in Kafka on the Shore by Murakami, this book is a big part of the plot. And he does that a lot. He interjects pop culture stuff, like the other book I read called Norwegian Wood, which is straight up a Beatles song. And I'm not sure how I feel about that, because you're in this fictional world, but he's talking about real things, and it kind of blurs that line, which I guess Murakami does, right? Like that's kind of part of his deal. So it works. Here's a scary one, The Collected Works of Oscar Wilde. And I'm saying that because I just read The Picture of Dorian Gray, which gave me big time heebie-jeebies, especially with some other stuff going on in the world. I don't think all of his stories are like that, but if they are, then this is a solid brick of depression that can be yours if you want to buy it on eBay. Ha ha ha. Speaking of solid bricks of depression, here we got the Selected Stories of Franz Kafka, Modern Library Edition. Again, I am a sucker for these tiny hardcovers. Something about them is just beautiful. I have Gulliver's Travels in this edition, so I could start my collection. Also, we got a biography of Franz Kafka, which I thought was a good-looking book. Again, probably not one you want to read in the dead of winter. And thanks to that commenter on my last video who said there are certain books that were just not meant to read during winter. You're exactly right. I need to alter my reads based on my mood, based on the weather, based on my position in life. Reading The Picture of Dorian Gray at the onset of winter and at the onset of daylight savings time was like jumping into a shark tank, and somehow I was blind to it. But now I see. This one might be a good winter read, Breakfast at Tiffany's by Truman Capote, which is weird to say because I know In Cold Blood was not a cheery book, but I'm told this is like the opposite of In Cold Blood, and I think Truman Capote is an incredible writer. So if this is a lighthearted tale, I imagine Truman Capote did an amazing job, and it'll be a great read. That's going on my TBR. The Catcher in the Rye should probably go on my TBR as well, because I've been thinking about it a lot. I think Norwegian Wood was based on it. And I think the book that I'm currently writing is somewhat based on it as well. At least it has the same kind of structure where you follow this main character as they make a lot of realizations about life. Maybe that could be used to describe any book out there, but I would like to read that again. As well as this, Crime and Punishment, but I will not read it during the winter. I imagine this is a depressing one. I know all those Russian authors like to talk about suffering and pain. So we'll save that one for a brighter day. And here's some Hemingway, To Have and Have Not. Haven't heard of this one. I think it'll round out a set of these that I have. They sell pretty well. This one is a bit dirty on the backside, although that kind of fits Hemingway there, looking like a mugshot. But I haven't heard of this one. To Have and Have Not. And it's a short one. I was going to read The Sun Also Rises, but maybe this one's more approachable? I don't know. Alright, now we're getting into some penguins here. This is my next collection. I'm allowing myself to collect all of these books that I find. The Penguin Orange Collection. This one is White Noise by Don DeLillo. I read the synopsis to this book, and it seemed precisely targeted towards me. It's talking about the numbing effects of technology. Not a happy book. Probably very similar to Player Piano if you saw my review of that. Something that I'm thinking about all the time, especially with this AI stuff coming out. What will be the effect on humanity, productivity-wise, but also spiritually? Which is not really a word that gets used with AI because AI is kind of the antithesis of spirituality. But who knows? I don't know. This is all just speculation. All right, here we got a lot of deluxe Penguin editions. Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. I love these as well. It's going to be hard for me to part with them because I have 6 or 7 here, already a collection, but I might sell them as a lot. This one, unfortunately, got a little dinged down there. Still a beautiful book with a deckled edge. I love the little artwork in these. Look at that. Beautiful. John Steinbeck, Grapes of Wrath, which I have not seen before in this edition. I have seen East of Eden probably about 5 times, so this will make a nice set. The Tale of Genji, just the biggest Penguin classic I've ever seen. Technically probably bigger than the Count of Monte Cristo. Look at that. Huge. And I'm proud of myself because this one came from a university textbook store. So it had this huge sticker right here And normally I would be ashamed to show you the back because it would be torn to all hell. But look at that. Not going to call it like new, but it's a solid, very good. Solid, very good book. On the Road by Jack Kerouac. I've sold this book a number of times, but never this specific edition. And it's a little plainer than the other ones, I'll admit. Although it did give me an image of Jack Kerouac that I did not have before. Didn't know what this guy looked like, but that was not what I was picturing. Expanding my literary scope in that sense. We got some Graham Greene here, an author that I'm not terribly fond of after reading The Power and the Glory, but this one, The Quiet American, might be something entirely different. I'd be willing to give him another chance, especially with a beautiful book like this. Would look nice on my TBR, maybe my TBO, to be ogled. I saw this one in a new bookstore the other day, so I know it'll sell. Swan's Way by Marcel Proust. And it was part of like a 5-book set. Luckily, this is the first one, so that would be the easiest one to sell. Oh, and this one I'm excited about. This is the first one I've found, although I always drool over these when I go to Barnes & Noble. Not sure what the official name is, but I call them the Penguin Cloth-Bound Classics. This is Emma by Jane Austen. They all have this patterny design, and I like them all, especially the one for the picture of Dorian Gray, actually, even after having learned what's inside that book. They just feel really nice. They look really nice on a shelf. It's no wonder why you don't see these often at the thrift stores, because who's going to give up a beautiful book like this? But it's good to have those white whales, right? It's good to have those golden geese out there that you're looking for. All of these books will be going in my collection. First, we have some Puffin classics, which I love, which look amazing on a shelf. They're very colorful. And on the spines, they have a tiny image of the cover art that my camera will not focus on, but trust me, it is beautiful. And we have The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn as well. This one's a little thicker. Maybe my camera will like that one a little bit more. Gorgeous book. And I love this color, kind of like a dark teal. All right, here we got the latest influx of Penguin classics, black spines. I'm gonna have to touch these up with the pen before they go in my collection. If you haven't seen that video a while ago, I went through all of them and kind of restored them in a rudimentary way. Starting with Robertson Davies' The Manticore. I read Fifth Business a while ago, which is apparently part of a trilogy, which The Manticore is the second book in. I'm not sure where he's going to go with that. It seemed to end pretty definitively, but if he just goes on with the same themes and different stories, I'd be totally on board for it. I also got the last book in the series, World of Wonders, and I paid a little bit more for these than I normally would a Penguin Black Spine classic, but I'm excited to have them on my TBR, and I think they will be bright spots that I might be utilizing pretty soon. Here we got a book by Aristotle, the Nicomachean Ethics. One swallow does not make a summer, neither does one brief space of time make a man happy. Well, that does seem based, though. Here's a good one, The War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells. I was really excited to find this at Goodwill for $1. It's one I listened to a long time ago and still remember most of. It's in awesome shape, no touching up necessary, and I can put it in my collection without any shame because I have read it. Unlike this one, Personal Memoirs of Ulysses S. Grant, an interesting piece of history to have in my shelf, for sure, but one I'm unlikely to dive into, mainly based on the length. It is perhaps the most revolutionary autobiography of high command to exist in any language. That's something. 12 Angry Men by Reginald Rose. When my wife was helping me take the stickers off these books, she said I have to read this one, which was surprising. I didn't know that she had read this one, but pretty minor commitment, so I will definitely do that. And I haven't seen the movie. Somehow I haven't seen the movie, so luckily it will be a fresh story. Candide by Voltaire. Tried reading this one a while ago, didn't get into it, and I don't think this is a winter read. But now I'll have it on my shelf, and I can get rid of that Barnes & Noble Classic edition that I have in place of the Black Spine, so that feels good. We got one by Plato here, Phaedrus. Men desire the beautiful, even if they are not in love. Okay. Mark Twain, Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, a certified absolute classic that I'm proud to have in my library. And you see this one all the time, but in most cases it's super beat up, and I will pass up a Black Spine classic if it is too tattered. but this one was in pretty good shape. It's got some notes in here, paragraph by paragraph reactions to the text or something. Not sure. But no writing in it, so thank you for writing on a separate piece of paper and not in the text. I do appreciate that. Thomas Hardy, The Return of the Native. Sorry to say, Thomas Hardy to me is the guy who was in Mad Max Fury Road, the main guy from that movie. Not an author. There are a lot of unpronounceable names on the back of this book, so I will do the favor and not try to read from that. Oh, here we go. Plato the Republic. I have read this one, Philosophy 101, back in college, so I can proudly display that on my shelf. And this is one that has a place in any library. Especially for me, one of the big categories is books that my children will one day be assigned, or I hope that they are one day assigned, and they can come to my library and pick it out. I get a lot of happiness out of that. I get a lot of hope out of that. So it feels good. Can't say the same for this one. Heinrich Boll's The Lost Honor of Catherine Bloom. A very modern piece of cover art for one of these Penguin Black Spine classics. Nobel Prize winner Heinrich Boll's powerful novel about a woman terrorized by the media. I feel like we're all terrorized by the media these days. That one might be a potential read. And that's what I got for you guys. So like I said earlier, hopefully I'll have some kind of raffle entry in the description. I'm going to pick a random winner. I'll announce it next video. I'll send you those books out free of charge. Just give me your address in the US. I'm out of my reading slump, thank God. I'm almost finished with one book and I feel like it's just going to be smooth sailing for the next couple. So I will have another review video out before the end of the year. And then I will be ranking every book I read this year. I think it's about 45, 48 books. A new personal best. And as always, thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.